Well, it was lovely like 10 minutes ago, and well, this is Scotland, it can change very quickly. Just leaving Taransay now. I'm gonna pass back through the Sound. It's very wet. Oh my goodness.
As Sally just said, and if you've been watching the last few episodes, you'll already know, we spent the last couple of days over on the Isle of Taransay, just off the west coast of Lewis, where we got the rare opportunity to spot a group of basking sharks, and where we were lucky enough to have the whole place to ourselves.
I think this is just a patch we're going through. It is actually very clear in front of us, so another 10 minutes and we'll see the sunshine again, hopefully. Well, what a difference 10 minutes can make in Scotland. It's now absolutely chucking it down again, but the clouds are clear in front, so hopefully we are heading towards clearer skies and the sunshine again. We're going to pass through the Sound and then find somewhere to anchor for the night on the inside again.
And so while we're motoring along, I'm making the most of the relatively smooth motion of the boat and getting some comfort snacks made. After digging around in the stores for a while, I found some stale brioche buns that needed using. So I just whisked up some eggs with a little bit of cream and added a touch of vanilla. Those hot dog buns were cut up and soaked in the mix for a while, and as you might have guessed it, I'm making a bit of French toast. Or, if you're from the north of England, eggy bread. With a couple of dollops of cooked down blueberries and a sprinkling of cinnamon laced icing sugar, I'm sure it'll distract Sally from the miserable weather for at least a short while.
Still no idea what they are. Very sweet. Taste a bit French toasty. Brioche buns, French toast in a blueberry compote. And so the weather started to clear again, and we're continuing our way south through the Outer Hebrides. We're now slowly making our way through the Sound of Harris. We'll be taking an overnight stop in the picturesque Haunary Sound, before heading down to the Isle of Barra at the bottom of the islands. Coming into Haunary, the main entrance is located a little further south, but arriving from the north there's a little narrow opening into the Sound between a small island that's accessible at high tide, and we managed to sneak in through this way while we had calm water and enough depth under the keel.
Well, we've had quite a peaceful night here in anchor in Haunary Sound. It's a sheltered little bay. I think you're pretty well protected from all wind directions. A little bit overcast today. We're going to try and get some drone footage of the area. It's lots of beautiful little islands. We've been here explored in the dinghy before, but unfortunately it keeps starting to rain, and as I know full well, drones are not waterproof. So unfortunately we're not being able to do that. So what we're going to do is just going to raise the anchor and we're going to head off south to Barra. We're going to go to Castle Bay at Barra, which is like the main stop-off point for reprovisioning at the south of the Outer Hebrides. And then hopefully have a look around a few of the small islands over there. So that, for those that might not know, is the anchor alarm, which is a proximity alarm that I set on an app on my phone at a fixed GPS position, and it goes off if the anchor drags. Now, it's never happened, but you never know. I never forget to set it when we anchor, but about half the time I forget to turn the bloody thing off before we leave.
On a day like today, this place probably looks a bit bleak and featureless. But if you have the time to explore in a dinghy or a shore-drafted boat, it's actually an amazing place, full of small islands and bays that continue inland for miles. There's certainly a need for some careful navigation, but the rewards are definitely worth it.
Well, it's been a nice easy day so far, uneventful, light winds, sails are up, but we're not moving very fast, just 3.6 knots, but we're definitely moving. Barra's in sight, so not too far away. Glad that we came through the sound again onto this side, because we haven't got as much Atlantic swell, and in light winds like this, obviously the sails would just be flogging around and banging a lot, and we'd have to take them down at this point, so I think we made the right decision, so that's good.
Well, the sun seems to have abandoned us again, but at least the wind's picked up. That northerly wind that picked up over the last 24 hours, it's certainly got a bit of a bite to it. The temperature's dropped at least, I don't know, I'd say 8 degrees maybe. It's, yeah, it's a little chilly today. We're almost at Barra, another half an hour or so, and we'll be in Castle Bay.
Amazingly, this is the first other sailboat we've seen since leaving the Isle of Rona nearly 2 weeks ago.
So, this is Castle Bay. Not that you can see jack shit, but
That's why it's called Castle Bay.
because there's a castle.
It's a big castle.
Slow us down. Into port.
Like a handbrake turn, that.
Yeah, marvellous.
You don't like that? Did you not like that?
We decided we weren't going to stay for the one night here on Barra, as the forecast for the next day was for favourable wind to sail southeast, and it wasn't looking too good after that for at least a week. We didn't fancy being stuck here in the rain for that long, so we took a quick walk into town to grab a few essential supplies from one of the local stores, which turned out to have a great selection of local produce and loose dry store ingredients in stock. On the way back to the boat, we made another stop to grab some not so essential supplies.
Oi, speak for yourself.
Are you sure you miss a hand? Do managing this?
I'll be alright.
Squeaky three hands between two of us.
Which one should we go for?
Well, not the ones there off we beat. I would go that one or aye, that one.
We'll go
Quite
that
big, isn't it?
Right there to you.
I was amazed that I actually got a kitchen implement in my hand.
I know I'm going to hold on to this. There was one in, but I threw it back out.
That one? Have I got it? Do you think I've got it?
Yeah, you've got it.
Look at that in one go.
Got
there,
it.
that one.
Oh, do you need
no.
another box?
I don't know, I should have gone the other way,
we'll
shouldn't
come
I?
to an
I'll
issue
tell you what.
here.
I'll tell you what, if I go like
And
that...
you've got more left in
no.
there.
So- Typically, as with most of the coastal towns and villages in Scotland, the harbour entrance here was strewn with a large amount of small buoys, put out by the fishermen to mark the creel pots for catching lobster and langoustines. This can be one of the main dangers of sailing anywhere near the coast at night in Scotland, as getting one of the lines that are attached to these buoys wrapped around your prop can pose a serious problem. So, the plan for today is to sail southeast, past the Isles of Coll and Tiree, and make our way to the southern tip of the Isle of Mull.
Sailing's usually all or nothing. When there's something that needs doing, it needs doing quickly, as efficiently as possible, and it can be quite physical. And yes, there's always something you can be doing, but on easy sailing days like today, when the wind's nice and steady, you're not bothered about squeezing that extra tenth of a knot out the boat, there's plenty of time to just chill and enjoy the moment. So Miles, what exactly is it that you do in these moments of tranquility, I hear you ask? Well, here's 5 of our top time fillers. Speed cubing. For anyone else out there that can actually remember the 1980s, you'll know this as a Rubik's Cube. You may well have been given one for Christmas, and by Boxing Day lunch you'd pulled it to pieces or taken all the stickers off in frustration of trying to redo it again. Well, those original ones were a piece of crap, and things have moved on. The new ones are spring-loaded, nice and smooth, and with the invention of the internet, you just need to Google to learn how to do it. Playing music, whether it's just putting on your favourite tunes through the speakers or actually playing an instrument. Though, as you can imagine, trying to play the guitar in the cockpit is quite difficult in 40 knots of wind when it's raining sideways, so these calm sunny days certainly make things a whole lot easier. Reading. Whether your usual preference is devouring Noam Chomsky or the latest trash novel you were recommended, a good sailboat staple is to thumb your way through the battered old copy of the cruising guide for the 1000th time. Don't bother reading any of those pilotage notes, just keep searching for that perfect anchorage within walking distance of the pub. Eating. Well, there's not really a lot of explanation needed for this one, and it's certainly not exclusive to fair weather sailing, but it's a lot easier to make when you're not being thrown around the galley, and it's certainly a lot more pleasant to eat when the boat's motion makes it less likely to be thrown back up again. Looking out for things. Besides making sure you don't hit any hard pointy stuff, being an active watch has other benefits too. Now, we've been fortunate enough to see a fair amount of marine wildlife while we've been out sailing, but we do also spend a fair amount of time actively looking for it too. So, to improve your chances, stop pretending to be checking the weather forecast, log out of TikTok, put the phone away, and get your binoculars out. So we've had to drop the sails as we're coming through Gunna Sound, which is the small gap of water between Coll and Tiree. There's a few small standing waves and we've got close to 3 knots of current against us. We were trying sailing through, but we just got such light winds that there's no way we were going to do it, so unfortunately we've had to motor through. Well, we've not quite had the conditions that we hoped for today. The wind has died completely, but we're going to make the most of it, and so we've changed course and we're heading to the island Staffa. So we know that you need quite settled conditions to be able to anchor and land here, so hopefully conditions are right. There's not too much swell. There's a little bit of a roll from the southwest, but I think we can deal with that. And yeah, hopefully we can get into Fingal's cave in the dinghy. That's the plan anyway. So we'll see how it goes.
Staffa has been on our list of places to visit ever since we arrived in Scotland, and although we've sailed past it several times, the conditions have never been right for us to be able to anchor and come ashore. There are several boat tours that arrive here during the day, and I'm guessing the small anchorage and dock can get quite busy. But it's nearly 7 PM, so hopefully all those tour boats will have left, and it should be quiet. Fingal's cave is probably one of the most famous sea caves in the world, and although it's only one of many on the island, it's certainly the largest and most impressive. The basalt columns that make up the unusual structure are what form most of the island, and are similar to those found at the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland. Star. I don't know how far in you want to go. That's fun. Well done, Miles. That was good.
I don't know if putting this fleece jacket on.
You're a bit warm. Do you want me to row?
Yeah, whatever.
You never let me row. I'm not going to deny it. As we left the island, we did so with a certain amount of smug satisfaction that we'd inadvertently managed to time our arrival in near perfect conditions. Long day.
Long day. Come on, dinner time.
Ooh.
"7:30, so up bright and early. Late night last night, got wind today, so we need to get up early and get on."
Well, it certainly is a beautiful morning, and we have that rare combination of sun and wind, so let's make the most of it. We're currently sailing over the north side of the Ross of Mull on the island of Mull, and we'll be heading through the sound of Iona, which is a short sound between the island of Iona and the island of Mull, and then we'll be heading east, so in the opposite direction, back towards the mainland to a little anchorage called Puldoran. So we have 15 knots of wind forecast today, so it should be some good sailing. So we're coming up to the sound now. The current set south about an hour ago, and we've got over 3 meters of tide with us today. So we should have 2 knots of current with us and plenty of water underneath us. There's a couple of shoal patches that you need to watch out for, especially at low water and at springs, but that should be fine today, so it should be quite a easy, gentle sail through. So the only thing we have to keep an eye out for is the ferry, fishing boats and some lobster pots.
Yeah.
So we've got the mainsail up and we've turned to port and we're now heading south. Got a reef in the bay, and as predicted, we're gusting up to 22 knots of true wind already, so that reef just makes things a little bit easier, just settles the boat down a touch. See it there, the ferry crossing in front of us. It's one of the obstacles in our way through here today. So just come round through the sound and we're now heading east, beating into it upwind, settle down a little bit, down to steady 16, 17 knots, and just passing the south of this little anchorage called Coll. It's between Iona and Tiree over there. Try and get in there last night, but it's getting quite late, it's getting quite dark. There's some other boats in there on the AIS. Quite tight, so getting this. I'm glad we did, because looking in there I can see several masts. Been quite snug in the dark. So that southeasterly wind that we've got seems to be hugging the coast a little today, so we've come further out south into the Firth of Lawn to get a little bit of distance out, and then hopefully when we tack onto a starboard tack we can make it all the way to Poldoran.